Hi, my name is Kevin Kirkpatrick. I'm a solutions architect with Rolta Advizex, and today I'm going to be talking to you about PKS and what it means for traditional operators and operations teams. So what we know today from a developer standpoint is they're used to deploying and managing their containers with things like Kubernetes and scaling their applications within these Kubernetes clusters, right? And they're also used to consuming some components that are oftentimes being provided by public cloud providers that go along with their application development lifecycle. Things like container registries. They need a place to store data, a la persistent volume claims in the case of Kubernetes. And there's always some type of networking and security component that goes along with it. So again, these things are traditionally what developers are used to consuming and deploying their applications. And when it comes to consumption, we typically look at a couple different ways, but primarily through API and CLI with tools like kubectl, Docker, and certainly in the case of PKS command. So if we look at what developers are concerned with and what it means for them from an application standpoint, they need to be able to deploy their applications, scale their applications, monitor their applications, and most importantly, they want that public cloud experience. Now, in contrast, when we start looking at PKS platform and how it relates to operations teams, and again, this is just a summary of some of the PKS components, but you have things like OpsMan, we have vSphere, right? We have NSXT, and that's all getting wrapped up in the PKS API as far as consumption. And behind these components, and we'll draw a line here, which represents the PKS platform and services that it's providing as a whole. Behind the scenes, there's a lot of things that operations teams are naturally comfortable with, things that they've always done, and that are going to exist even when deploying and maintaining a PKS environment. So those things are compute, we got storage, we have networking, and we have security. And these are things, again, that are more operations focused and owned and managed by the operations teams. And if we take a closer look at operations, in their world, they are typically concerned with designing their infrastructure, running the actual platform, maintaining, so patching. One of their primary concerns is consistency across these different technology silos. So when we look at both pieces, operations and developers, and we kind of can summarize both from a business perspective, because at the end of the day, it's all about delivering business value. Traditionally, the operations side is more technology focused, right? And from a developer standpoint, they are more business focused, just from the nature of their work. So from a traditional operations perspective, what does that mean considering all of these different components? Instead of managing your traditional infrastructure, compute, storage, network, and security, maybe you have separate teams in each of those different technology silos. We're having to break out and consider the bigger picture and get a little bit closer to what those business requirements are. And the way we do that, in most cases, the reason why developers are leveraging things like PKS and deploying containerized and microservice-based applications, is there's a business need to deliver faster. So from an operations perspective, that means adopting a lot of those same things that developers are using, those same tool sets. So again here, API and CLI, we're going to start seeing that more on the operation side. So again, adopting a lot of those things and practices that the developers are using in order to support the deployment of applications and maintaining agility throughout the technology stack. So this could mean things like scripting, configuration management, automation, orchestration. Just some examples of things that are more operationally focused, but again, adopting some of those things that developers are typically more used to seeing. And at the end of the day, we go back to talking about business value. It's all about bridging the technology with the business. And we talk about agility, but it's also about patterns. So I like to say agility through patterns. And that means adopting things like CI, CD, infrastructure as code, version control systems. So storing, for example, scripts in version control. When we talk about CI/CD, providing the ability for developers to consume infrastructure more as a service versus your request-based process, and driving that same approach through a common consumption and management layer, again, across these technology silos. And so in summary, the not necessarily about totally changing or having to learn about the way applications are developed, but understanding and using that existing expertise that you have with your technology silos, compute, storage, network security, whatever the case may be, adopting some of the patterns that are used by developers and working together to help drive business value throughout that technology stack. That's all I really had for today. If you want to learn more about PKS, check out other videos on YouTube, and we'll talk to you next time.